So I won't actually talk about 5 levels right now. I'll talk about 5 levels later on the main stage together with Natty from Lemonade. But my take for today is that algorithms alone won't solve conversational AI. So that's what I'll talk about. And there's a little bit of an echo there. Can we get the echo? Try this. Still getting a bit of... Can everyone hear me all right? I'll just work with it. Cool. Wonderful. All right. First principles, why am I here? Why are we here at all? Why does Rasa exist? What's our mission as a company? I think there are lots and lots of amazing use cases for AI assistants that won't get built by for-profit companies and certainly not by the big tech players. And actually, if we build natural language interfaces to computers, that's an opportunity to build a wave of technology that really includes everybody. And a lot of people that were left behind by the mobile and Web 2.0 waves previously can now use this technology without having to learn how to use it. And that's a wonderful, empowering thing. And it won't have the impact that it should have if only Google, Amazon, IBM, Microsoft can build these things. And so our mission is to empower all makers to build AI assistants that everyone can use for every use case that they can possibly imagine. And to do that, we're building the standard infrastructure layer for conversational AI. So again, in the other talk, I'll talk a little bit more about what kinds of companies are using Rasa, what kind of developers are using Rasa. But I presume this is the NLP stage. So maybe put up your hand if you've built something with Rasa before. Only a handful. All right. Well, then I guess we have to start from the beginning. So we started working on this problem in 2016. This was a blog post we wrote right about a couple of weeks before, actually it might have been a couple of days before, the Facebook Messenger platform opened up. And Alex, my co-founder, and I had been building some chatbots on Slack, and we just realized that this problem is incredibly hard. And then there was all this buzzing hype about chatbots, they're going to change everything, they're going to replace websites, they're going to replace mobile apps. And we've been working on this for a little while and thought, you know what, that's not how it's going to work. And we just wrote some of the problems that we saw that were blocking us and other developers from building great conversational AI. And one of the big things we saw was there was this huge amount of research, decades worth of research on building dialogue systems. And there wasn't a single code base that was intended for developers who want to build a product to use those ideas. So there were a few bits of code lying around from research groups that they could use to do more research, but there wasn't anything that was like, okay, use this to build a product, it has documentation, it has tests. So we thought, wouldn't it be valuable if somebody went and built that library? And everything we've done in the last 3 years has just been about removing the barriers that we see that are preventing people from building great conversational AI. And so it started with this blog post, and then we ran this chatbots meetup, and everyone who was attending, this is now 6 months after the Messenger platform opened up, and everyone who was still seriously working on their chatbots was saying, yeah, look, we don't like depending on Wit.ai or Dialogflow, it's kind of precarious, and we're going to do our own NLP any day now. Any day, like next month we're going to have time, we're going to do it. And nobody did, so we thought, okay, why don't we write a blog post about how you can build your own NLP as a chatbot developer. That was cool, got lots of reads, lots of people checked it out, and then we talked to people and absolutely nobody went and actually followed the tutorial and built their own NLP system. So we thought, let's go one step further and let's open up our code base for NLU. And so that's how Rasa NLU started. This was the end of 2016. And I think it was just right product at the right time. Lots of developers picked it up and started using it. And it was really marketed as, here's a drop-in open source replacement for Wit.ai or Lewis or Dialogflow. And that kind of started off our developer community. And then we had such a positive experience with the open source community, people contributing to it, people being excited about it, that we decided that really the whole company should be open source. So then a year later, we open sourced Rasa Core, which we'd actually started working on already earlier, which was the dialogue system, right? So how do you build a more scalable dialogue system that doesn't break down? If you've ever built a moderately complicated chatbot, if you're writing rules, how to handle this intent, if this happened before, if this happened before, if this thing is set, this thing becomes a mess and impossible to maintain. So we said, okay, let's build a more scalable dialogue system, and then there was still one thing missing, So we published a paper last year on a new dialogue policy for a better algorithm for learning how to do dialogue. But we realized that the biggest blocker we were facing was we can push the algorithms all we want, but if our users don't have good data sets to train on, it's not going to help them. And actually, if you go to any of the academic workshops on conversational AI at NeurIPS or Nichol or anything like that, it's just a recurring theme. Everyone says the thing slowing progress down in this field is we don't have good training data. So we said, well, how do we find a way to give our users a tool to collect real training data? Because transfer learning is nice and all these things are nice, but really by far the most valuable data are the conversations that users have with your system, right? That's on task and in domain. So that's the take, is algorithms aren't enough, and that's why we released, just over a month ago, we released Rasa X, which is a free product you can use. And so it sits alongside the open source offering. So Rasa is an open source framework. There's the NLU part, the dialogue part. It's now in 1.0 version, 1.1 already actually. And so all the core machine learning stuff is in there and connecting to all the channels. And then we have this Rasa X product, which is free and sits alongside it. And what that's for is really learning from real data, right? So you can view and annotate conversations. You can get feedback from test users, and there's like a model server, so you can version your models and do rollback and all those kinds of things. So it's really just no excuses, train on real data, right? So I'll just show, I didn't want to do an interactive demo, but if you grab us at the booth, I can happily show you it. There's also a demo you can try in the documentation. I will say it runs locally, and it's not a SaaS offering, so it's something you run on your machine, something we believe in very strongly, that your training data is yours, it's your IP, it's how you're building up defensibility. So this runs on your machine. So yeah, learning from real conversations, what does it look like? Actually, the first feature is a really simple and dumb one, but it actually has a big impact, which is within the UI, you can create a link that you just send to your friends, and they can test out your bot. Because a lot of people are building chatbots inside companies, and so setting up a Slack and inviting your friends there, or asking your colleagues to use their personal Facebook accounts to talk to your bot, it's just a bit of friction. And actually just having a link and saying, here, go talk to my bot, and this is the view that they see, they can test it out right away. It's actually quite impactful. And I think it tells you that great features don't have to be sophisticated. I was catching up with a friend of mine who does dialogue research at a large telecom company, and he was saying, oh yeah, we've been using Rasa X, and this is my favorite feature. So once all the conversations come in, this is what it looks like in Rasa X. So we really emphasize looking at the conversations that people have, annotating them. So you can either fix any NLU mistakes inside the screen, or if you see that the dialogue system did something wrong, you can switch into interactive learning mode, where you provide corrections to the dialogue system, and it learns from the feedback that you give it. And then there's a model server for doing your deployments and managing things and managing updates and things. So I'll finish with a plug for Rasa Developer Summit. So if you're a Rasa user or you want to learn about how Rasa works, come to our Developer Summit in San Francisco. We've got some really great speakers from Adobe, Lemonade, Facebook Research, N26, and of course Rasa. So come by and learn. We'll have lots of interesting talks from industry, from independent hackers, from startups. And yeah, I'll finish with that. Go check it out. Go play with the documentation. If you have any questions about how anything works, come find me afterwards. If you have any questions right now, I'm happy to answer them. So the question is, if anyone didn't hear, how language dependent is Rasa? So with the caveat that you need to be able to tokenize the language, we can do, Rasa NLU can do any language. So it doesn't, if you're using, if you want to do Chinese or Japanese or Thai, then you need a separate tokenizer to first pre-process, or Hebrew. And if you have a very morphologically rich language, it's a little trickier as well. And the default settings won't work, so you need to play with the parameters a bit. But that's also the beauty of open source, is you can just crack open the hood and tweak your models to get some good performance out. But we've had, dozens and dozens of languages in the community. So if you're interested in Hebrew, we have a forum. If you search the Rasa forum, there are like 5,000 active people on there. I guarantee you someone's building something in Hebrew, and you can ask them for advice. Yeah. Cool. All right. Thanks. When? If you check the agenda, it's on the main stage later today.
Thank you, Adam.